Thank you, Victoria. The beautiful and amazing Victoria, our music ministry. How did it feel to just speak thank you, right? How does it feel to just be in the essence of gratitude? And I know we get invited to speak those things, right? And we get invited into these opportunities to remember the gratitude. And I'm very aware that it's always within us. Right? Sometimes we may forget that it's there, but there is always something within us that is grateful. Because I believe that that is actually the energy and the power of God within us. You know, it is that which we lean on to be grateful, to be able to see out in the world, see in our lives with a sense of positivity for how we at least get to show up, a sense of grace that we are living into, and for the potential that is at hand for a greater sense of well-being within us. So I love that we invite you to speak those words. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's like, okay. And maybe when life isn't as specifically asking me to say thank you, but it is asking me in other ways to be in gratitude, I just may not see it. How can I be so in the consciousness and so intentional about being in gratitude that it simply shows up? It's beautiful when Victoria invites us to speak it. And what if it's a challenge that invites us to speak it? What if it's something that doesn't feel good that invites us to speak it and to feel it and to know it, right? And so that's what I really want to talk to you about today is like, how can we make it more of a practice so that we can be more in intention with it and that we can be more in the flow of that energy? Because to me, the energy of gratitude is the energy of love, right? It's the way in which love becomes spoken or manifested within my heart. And we have an opportunity for it. Actually, this is your opportunity for it, to be in gratitude, because there was a gentleman, the father, right? And so he calls his son up, his adult son up, and says to him, the son lived away, and says to him, listen, I hate to ruin your day right now, but I have to tell you something. I cannot wait. Your mother and I are divorcing. 45 years of misery is enough. And the guy goes like, Dad, what are you talking about? You guys are always so happy and so loving with each other. And like, we've been putting on a show. I can't stand her any longer. She can't stand me. We're sick of each other and we're getting a divorce and I don't even want to talk about it anymore. So you call your sister up and you let her know that we're getting a divorce. Like the son hangs up the phone, calls his sister up who lived in another city and says, you won't believe it, but Dad called me and said that they're getting a divorce. The sister's like, what are you talking about? Calls up the dad immediately and says, do not do anything until we get there. You are not to move on it. You are not to think about it any longer. I can't believe that this is going on. Me and my brother are going to go and stay with you guys. Tomorrow we'll be there. Don't do anything until we get there. And the dad goes, okay, fine, and he hangs up the phone, looks over at his loving wife and says, I got them to come for Thanksgiving. I don't know what we'll do for Christmas. You know what? Hold on. All right, it's a little much. Okay, I'm being invited into gratitude for people standing up and clapping and not think about, are the other ones just so bad? Listen, I know that many of us, as we get closer to Thanksgiving, are thinking about family coming over and looking forward to it. I know that some of us are really trying to put on our, strong spiritual tools into practice because there are many of us that may be not looking forward to some aspects of getting together with families. Maybe there's going to be some hard conversations, that are going to be had around the dinner table or some things that may come up, and there may be a little trepidation. This is an opportunity to already allow ourselves to be in the space of gratitude and appreciation so that we can carry that forward in whatever situation that we may find ourselves today or in the rest of the week. I have to tell you, I'm actually very excited. I'm going to have a very full Thanksgiving. Tom, Lucas, and I are going to go and prepare meals with Unity on the Bay and Branches early on Thursday morning. By the way, through all of your support and your consciousness and that which Unity on the Bay is, we are giving to Branches so that we can provide 2,000 meals this Thanksgiving to people that are in need. And so then once we're done with that, we're going to go pick up my mom, and we're going to take ourselves to my sister's house and be with her family for a while and spend the afternoon there and share some food around the table there. And then we're going to go and head over to dinner with friends of ours that are like family, and we're going to sit around another table and have the third meal of the day for Thanksgiving, and it's going to be amazing. We're staying in a hotel because the next day we're spending time with friends of ours that are coming in from Raleigh, and we're going to spend some time with them, and then we're going to invite a bunch of other friends that Friday night to come to our house, and there's going to be another table where we all get to eat and be around. So it is, I know, actually, let me take a breath right now. Fortified, anchored, but actually very much in gratitude, because as I think about that, I'm going to be around a lot of tables. And one of the things that we do, and this might be a tradition that you also have, is as much as we can, but definitely on Thanksgiving, when we sit at the table, we go around and we ask each of us to say one thing or a couple that we are grateful for. How many of you have that tradition for Thanksgiving? You know, I really invite you, for those that don't have it, to really do that, because it really does shift things, and it really allows us to be in the space, at least it does for me, of what Thanksgiving is really all about, which is just an opportunity to step back. I was going to say from the craziness of life, but I get it that for some people, Thanksgiving is the craziness of it all. But to take a step back and just look at the things that we are grateful for. And as I think about all the tables and all the opportunities I'm going to have this Thanksgiving, actually, it brought up for me this morning, like, God, why do I need Thanksgiving to remind me to be as intentional around the dinner table? You know, there are many times during the week that we don't do that when we're eating together at home, right? And so what is it that keeps me from being as intentional? And, you know, all those things come up for me, right? Like, well, you know, life is busy, right? Yes. There's always something going on. There's also something to do, yes? And sometimes, I'll be very honest, and you may find yourself in this, sometimes there's just not anything to be grateful for, not that much to be grateful for. Have you ever been in that space where you just don't know, or it doesn't come naturally to you to be in that space of gratitude? But I have to tell you again that I believe gratitude already is within us. And really, it's about sort of uncovering it and allowing it to shine forth, because there is something that I know, at least I am always grateful for, whether I'm conscious of it or not. I'm always grateful. If I really step into it, I really feel into it, I'm always grateful to know that I and God are one. I'm always grateful to be in a spiritual community like Unity on the Bay. I'm always grateful to be in the kind of relationships that I'm in. I'm always grateful to know that I have control over the ways in which I show up in my life and show up in the world. Sometimes I just forget that those are the things that I'm already imbued with gratitude and appreciation for. But there is such power in recognizing that and being consciously grateful and intentional about it, because the power of gratitude is the power that is transformative. It transforms any situation, whether it's a good situation or one that we already feel joy in. If I bring gratitude into the experience, it lifts it up even more. And if there's a situation that is challenging or difficult or getting the best of me, if I take a breath and if I remember and I step into gratitude, it transforms the experience, because it transforms me. It transforms the way that I'm showing up in that experience, and all of a sudden I'm able to feel it, see it, or experience it in a new way. The power of gratitude is the power of evolution. Really, to me, it is such a powerful, transformative energy that it is an evolution that takes place. An evolution within a situation, but an evolution within my own life. Because regardless of what is taking place, I always realize, or I always know, at some point during the journey, that the journey always takes me to a greater understanding of God in my life. Amen? Think about all the things that we've experienced. Are you not, in this very moment, more aware of the things that you needed to be aware of to remember that you and God are one? To remember that all of us are connected, even when we don't want to be, even though when we don't remember that we are one. And so the journey is this transformative evolution that we are invited into. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is the third installment of our series, right? The OGs of the holidays, and we started with grace. We moved into generosity. How many of you were consciously generous this past week? Yes? That was part of the growth work, right? Yes, we were invited to not only be generous, but to write down some of the ways in which we were generous so that we can be aware of how generosity shows up through us, sometimes in ways that we are conscious of and sometimes in ways that we aren't, and they still do something, right? It still lifts up the consciousness and the energy. So if you're watching from home, I'd love for you to comment on Facebook or YouTube about some of the ways in which you were generous this week. And for those of you who are in the room, I just invite you to shout out in a way that I can understand. How were some of the ways in which you were generous this week? How about it, Unity on the Bay? How were you generous? Kindness. Yes, you were kind this week. Somebody said something over here. You donated food to somebody or to something, right? And you were generous to that. Who else? You were in gratitude. Nana. You donated food. You donated money for food for Thanksgiving Day. Yeah, let me just tell you, how many of you, looking back on this week, feel like there was an act of generosity that you displayed? I am really inviting you to be not only conscious of it, but to celebrate it. I mean, think about it. All of us in this room were generous this week. And I invite you to scream it out and share it with others. And there's sometimes a little shyness or a trepidation. Like, can we really stand firm on the fact that I was a generous expression of God this week, right? Like, own it. Like, be empowered by it. So, were you all generous this week? Yes. Are you happy and feeling good about the generosity that you displayed this week? Yes. Are you happy with the way in which you showed up as the good of God in expression? Yes? Okay, good. And I'm glad that you're in that. So, this couple of weeks we've been sharing, and it was so great when Noel kind of brought forth this understanding of grace as that power within us, that when things are feeling tight and stressful and in tension, and do your hands again, we're going to do it every week this series, it just feels like, we're trying to control, right, and keep something in, and grace is being able to just realize we can let go, we don't need to be in control, we just need to show up. And what happens? We open up our fists, and then they're ready to give. What is mine to give into this situation? What is mine to give into this relationship? And we continue with that same experience of the hands, because then you have little fingers. And for me, it's like, okay, so I am in grace. I give of myself in this situation, and now let me count the ways in which I'm grateful for it. So, for example, I gave to Give Miami Day. And so using my fingers on this hand, I'm grateful that I had money to give and donate. I'm grateful that I am a generous person and believe myself to be generous. I am grateful that the money is going to do some good out in the world. I'm grateful that I wasn't the only one to give to Unity on the Bay during Give Miami Day. I am grateful that it felt good to give, right? So I want you to take a moment, and with just one of those open palms, think about one thing that you did that was generous this week. And now think of 5 ways in which you are grateful for that experience. Does that feel good? This is an invitation, right? Like, this is an invitation when you're having those moments where you are feeling stressed, where you are feeling separated. Open up the hand. What can I give? And now, what can I be in gratitude for? Meister Eckhart says that if the only prayer you say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. because it raises our vibrations. It is something that reminds us of the miracles that are taking place in our lives, the blessings in our lives, and it brings about positive feelings. Research has shown that it just makes us happier to be in the space of gratitude. And I believe that it makes us happier because it's just our natural state of being. The things that don't make us happy, the things that don't make us feel good, are the things that we put in the midst of our experiences that keep us from acknowledging our natural state of being and who we naturally are meant to be. And we know that when things especially are tough and difficult, it can really shift us to think about the things that we are grateful for and appreciative of, even in the midst of something that doesn't feel good, because what we focus on grows. And so sometimes we get so stuck on focusing on the things that aren't working and that we don't see a way out of it. And if we invite ourselves to be intentional and say, wait a minute, something within this I can be grateful for, it shifts our focus, it opens up our heart, and it allows us to vibrate and to experience whatever it is that we're going through with more potential, with more possibility, and with more empowered to live into that which is at hand. We increase whatever that we praise. The whole creation, Charles Fillmore, this is a Charles Fillmore quote. See, I thought it was my quote. Charles Fillmore says, we increase whatever we praise. The whole creation responds to praise and is glad. We make practical application of the law of praise by giving thanks always for all things. Take a breath with me. I'm going to give you a little grace in this because I love where, our buddy Charles was going into with giving thanks for all things, and I'm not there yet. There are things in my life that I'm still wondering how to be grateful for. I know that's where I want to get, but I'm still not there. And I find grace and solace in 1 Thessalonians 5, chapter 5, verse 18, which says, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Why does it give me grace? Because it doesn't say give thanks for all circumstances. It says give thanks in all circumstances. And that gives me a little breathing room because I don't have to be grateful for everything that is taking place, but within everything that is taking place, there is something in it that I can be grateful for. Amen? And so our work is, how do we find it? How do we connect with it? And how do we lift that up so that what? What we focus on grows. And it could be the energy by which we move into whatever situation we are going through. And so that is what I believe the will of God is. Not necessarily like that we actually have to be like, happy-go-lucky and positive about everything that is going on, but that there is something within us that invites us to focus on a different thing. Focus on something that is working rather than it's not working. So gratitude doesn't mean to me that we have to sort of isolate or separate ourselves from the human experience, which sometimes includes suffering, which sometimes includes the things that are stressful and don't feel good. But gratitude is about finding evidence that God is in the midst. Gratitude is being able to open our hearts to see or to seek to know where God is in every moment and then focus 100% on God. Not the challenge, not the difficulty, but on God. Now, a couple of years ago, I had Thanksgiving dinner at the airport in Ocala. Yes, I wasn't there on a layover. We literally went to visit family, and they said, all right, let's go to Thanksgiving dinner, and we got in the car, and all of a sudden, we found ourselves in the cafeteria of the Ocala airport, which, by the way, was not where I necessarily would have wanted to spend Thanksgiving dinner. It wasn't my happy place, I'll tell you that much. And we went through the table, and did our gratitude, and it really did shift things for me. Melody Beattie says, gratitude turns what we have into enough and more. See, in the moment that I stepped back and realized there's something to be grateful for, and I was invited to be in gratitude, all of a sudden, it was more than enough to be at the airport cafeteria for Thanksgiving in Ocala, because my thing that I was grateful for was family, and I got to be with them. So wherever it was more than enough, because my intention was to be present for family and the love that was being shared. She says it turns denial into acceptance. I didn't want to, it's not my plan, it's not where I'd like to go. I accepted this is where I'm at, and there is power in being able, by the way, this is how I remember things. I'm just like looking over at Tom over here. But that's how I remember I came to it. Chaos into order and confusion into clarity. But in all honesty, I look back and I'm like, God, was I so confused? Was I so confused about what was really going on? That it needed to be a certain meal, that it needed to be a certain space, rather than it just needed to be a place of connection, a place of family. And so in that gratitude, all of a sudden I got really clear about what was important, really clear about the truth of what was going on. It wasn't the thing of the five senses. It was the internal space of gratitude. It was the internal space of connection and love. By the way, I do know also part of the evolution is that I know boundaries. So now I say, and we are not going to the Ocala cafeteria for Thanksgiving dinner. But, it's so easy to be grateful when things are going well. What about when things aren't going well? Can we find something to be grateful for? And to me, it also depends on what our end goal is, right? Do things have to be perfect? Is the goal perfection, or is the goal evolution? Is the goal the spiritual journey? And if our goal is to just simply be in the spiritual journey and see the blessings of that, then no matter what is going on, there is something to be grateful for, because we are in the spiritual journey that is leading us where? To a greater awareness of the power of God in our lives and our connection with that. That, to me, is the grace in every single experience, that it always ultimately leads us to God. So yeah, this is icky, but where's the blessing in it? This doesn't feel right, but how is God showing up in it? This doesn't feel comfortable, but how do I get to show up, empowered by the very presence of God that I am as Christ's nature in expression? And we don't have to know fully how it's all going to look. I can be grateful for something even if I don't know the end goal or how it's supposed to look. Martha Mock says, do not wait to give thanks until every prayer is answered. Do not wait to give thanks until things are perfect. Give thanks where you are in the present set of circumstances, in the conditions in which you find yourself. Give thanks for life. Give thanks for the day at hand. Give thanks for the opportunities to grow and learn. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. How can that be my mantra every moment of the day, every experience that I move through? Without fully knowing what's at hand, can we trust and have faith that there is something to be grateful for? And sometimes we may not find the exact thing to be grateful for, but could you imagine being so kind and grace-filled to ourselves that even when we ask ourselves, what is it something that I can be grateful for? We can be grateful for the fact that we had that thought to bring us to gratitude. Maybe it'll come up little by little, but God, to be willing to be grateful is already something to be so grateful for. So how can we create regular practices of giving thanks? Where our attention goes, that grows. Miriam Williamson, who I'll be speaking with later today, and I'm very grateful for that, she talks about the power of, she doesn't talk about gratitude. She talks about the power of positivity. And she says this, while the power of negativity is clear to most everyone, the power of vigorous positivity receives short shrift in comparison. Positivity is more than the absence of the negative. It is the presence through thought, word, and action of the positive. In other words, simply not being negative is not enough. If we're interested in creating miracles and invoking the most powerful creative manifestation, we must proactively be positive. Well, I have to tell you that I don't know any quicker or more powerful way to move into a positive mindset than to ask myself, what am I grateful for in this moment? Whether in this situation or whether in my life or whether in the sense of who I am, what am I grateful in this moment? And all of a sudden, sometimes we get so caught up in the darkness that we fail to see, I fail to see, that sometimes it's just about opening up our eyes and seeing the light that is at hand. And gratitude is what shifts us, expressing gratitude in all situations. There are pearls that are created by the irritants inside the oysters. What is irritating you? What is difficult for you? And can you be at a place of knowing that that's what's going to bring you a greater sense of beauty and value in your life? To me, I invite us all to not only sit around a table with something to be grateful for, but even as we move into this time and into this energy and into this week, to already ask ourselves, as I give of who I am, which is beautiful and amazing and powerful, what are the things that I can be grateful for? Count your blessings on your hand. Philippians 4 chapter says, finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worth of praise, think about those things. And if you don't have anything in your mind to be grateful for in this very moment, then be in gratitude for this. I give thanks for who you are. I give thanks for the good that we are in the world. And I give thanks that together, individually and collectively, we are creating heaven on earth. I give thanks for you. Namaste, everyone.